This is where it says about 1 in 5 2025 Liberal voters have shifted to a more left-leaning option. That's 20%, folks.
That's insane.
I was doing some looking, and I started to ask some questions. I started looking into more about what has been happening with the latest polls. Now, if you recall, about 6 months ago, maybe longer, we had said that what will happen eventually is that Canadians are going to slowly start waking up to Mark Carney. And what will happen is that as Mark Carney starts putting through some of these policies or even these fake announcements like the pipeline deal and things like that, he's going to alienate a lot of the environmentalists from his party. Stephen Guilbeault fired a warning shot initially by resigning from cabinet, and most recently he resigned, and we heard that there's a bunch of other disgruntled Liberal MPs.
Was it like 13 or 14 of them?
14.
Yeah.
Jonathan Wilkinson resigned, and we surmise that a lot of those more progressive people are going to move from the Liberals back over to the NDP. Well, ladies and gentlemen, now we have data to actually show that that's exactly what's happening. So let's take a look. This is near the top of the latest report from Angus Reid, and they talk about the fact that climate change is actually starting to rise again in the minds of a lot of Canadians because of the wildfires and all of that. And the fact that Carney has talked about announcing things that are not necessarily related to the environment, but can be interpreted by some folks as being anti-environment. They say this: the political consequences of this are evident. While the Liberals continue to lead the Conservatives in federal vote intention, their advantage has narrowed to 4 points, as 1 in 6, almost 20%, 1 in 6 of those who voted Liberal in 2025 now say they would support the NDP. Among these Liberal to NDP switchers, climate change ranks as a top concern for half, twice the number among those who remain with Carney's party, 50% to 27% respectively. Carney's personal disapproval rating among these past Liberals who now would cast a ballot for the NDP is 31%, while it is just 2% among those who voted Liberal last year and would do so again. Carney's overall approval sits at 51%, down 9 points from a 60% high registered in February. So this is where we're going to start to look at some things. So Carney's approval has slipped 9 points since a February high. So that's significant, right? In February, he's at his peak. And since then, it has been a slow downward trend. The other thing that's interesting is that people are starting to make up their mind. The don't know and can't say has been decreasing. So it was 15% and it was around that area before that. But now people are starting to figure out who Mark Carney is, and his disapproval is starting to trend upward. That's gone up 8 points, and it's gone up 13 points since June of last year, folks. That's significant. Next, this is stats from people who voted Liberal in the last election, but are now declaring their vote intention to be NDP. So, approval of Mark Carney, 2025 Liberal voters. So those that are still Liberal, surprise, surprise, 56% of those are they're Carney fanatics. 41% moderately approve, 2% moderately disapprove. So that's still interesting, folks. And then 1%, they're not really sure. Those that have switched to NDP. So 11% of those who switched still strongly approve of Mark Carney, but saying they would vote NDP now. 46% of those moderately approve of him. And then you get into the disapprove, 25%, and So basically 31%, that's what I was saying before, 31% disapprove of what Mark Carney's doing. This is what drove me down my rabbit hole, folks. So what is this? This is Carney's net approval over time, his personal approval. So in June of 2025, that's the first column on the left, you'll see a bunch of numbers. And each number corresponds to an age bracket. So if you're 18 to 24, back in June 2025, there was a net positive of 20% of Canadians that approved of Mark Carney. And you can see the senior level, plus 45.
That's ridiculous.
Plus 45. So that's where it goes. And the folks that are in 35 to 44, 45 to 54, they primarily voted Conservative, so that's why they're plus 10, plus 11. But look at what has happened. So 18 to 24, net of plus 20 in June 2025, went up to plus 30 in June of this year. That has dropped to plus 1 in 1 month. 35 to 44, plus 10, all the way down to minus 6. And let's look at where the Liberal strength is right now. 55 to 64, that was at plus 26. That's now single digits at plus 7. And 65 plus, they were at plus 45. That has dropped by half.
That's insane.
Half. What does this show?
Well, it shows that Canadians' problems aren't getting solved, that adding more bureaucracy and more government is creating more problems, not solving them.
It also shows that the shine is wearing off Mark Carney, and it's wearing off quickly. Now, these personal numbers do not indicate a dramatic shift in the polls. And that's actually a good thing, because that means people are really thinking about this. But it does account for a shift. And it's this slow trend that we keep saying. You've heard us say it over and over and over again. We're not interested in big swings in the polls. I want a chip and a chip and a chip. Because those people that have just 1 by 1 or 10 by 10 or 100 by 100, they've changed their mind about Mark Carney. They're not coming back. That's what that means.
Well, and it's interesting because slow growth often means more stability. And when we were beginning the channel, we were like praying not to have a viral video, because a lot of YouTubers, you'll hear that they get one viral video near the beginning and then they get like swarmed with subscribers, and then they cannot recreate that viral video and the channel just crashes.
It dies.
Yeah. So slow and steady wins the race.
Now, this isn't the end, because they actually had the data available, and that's what we're going to get into now, because there's some more revealing things in the data. So check this out. So ladies and gentlemen, this is the data that makes up the Angus Reid polling. And you'll see here that what I've done is I've chopped out just the areas where you see the parties on the left and then the different age denominations on the right. So this is what I want you to look at. So this is the age broken down by specific demographics. So 18 to 24, 25 to 34, the same brackets as you saw in that previous slide. So look at 65 plus. That is down, according to Angus Reid, to 47% versus 43%. It's almost a 50-50 split now. That used to be a Liberal strength, even according to Angus Reid. That's fascinating. So what that tells me is that personal approval dip, where that demographic went from plus 45 down to plus 22, that accounts for some of this shift going on here. 45 to 64, same thing. And if you look at the youth, they're at 30% to 31%. You may be saying, well, why? Why are they still there? They're at a plus 1. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. Conservatives own the 38 or 35 to 44, and they still have some work to do on those other demographics. here's the other thing. Look at female versus male. Male 55 plus, 51% saying they're voting for conservative. Female 55 plus, 52% say they're going to vote for liberal. Now we go here. So this is an analysis of how people voted in 2025 versus their vote intention now. This is what we're hoping for, and this is what is happening. So what does this mean? So ladies and gentlemen, this column here, second column from the left, where it says liberal, this is how did you vote in the 2025 federal election. So what this is saying, and what I've highlighted here, is 16% of people that voted liberal in the last federal election are now committing to vote NDP. They have lost 16%. They've lost more of their voter base than the Conservative Party of Canada has. Let me say that again. The Liberal Party of Canada, who are doing such a fantastic job, have lost more of their voter base than the Conservative Party of Canada.
But we've kind of been saying that all along, that the Conservatives have a very, very strong base. The only issue is that not all of them vote, especially young people.
Right. And they're not, the Liberals aren't losing many to the Conservatives, so they've lost 3% of their voting base to the Conservatives, but they've lost 16% to the NDP. That's what's significant here. And if we look here, it's even more significant because you may look at the NDP and say, well, they've lost 20% of their voters to the Liberal Party of Canada, right? But we're talking percentages here, folks, not actual numbers. So if you look at the amount of people in this poll who actually said they voted for the NDP in the last federal election, and that's 89, they have a much smaller number to actually lose. So what's funny is the NDP lost more of a percentage to the Liberals, having a less people that actually voted for them. But they gained a net positive more people from the Liberals because of how many people voted for the Liberals, right? It's like Tanya has $10, I have $100.
I want $100.
And Tanya says, oh, I lost half my money. And I'll say, okay, well, I'll give you half of mine to make up for it. So she lost $5 and I gave her 50.
So now I've got $55.
So that's why the NDP keep going up. So this is exactly what we were hoping would happen, and it is happening. And you can see it. So in the last almost 6 months, look at this trend for the Liberals. It's the steady decline that we wanted to see. And there's going to be some little ups and downs as we go forward. So, don't worry about that. But it's starting to be a trend. And the Conservatives in that same period, they're holding on. And that's really all they need to do right now. Because right now, this is going to be a battle of not between who can steal each other's voters between the Conservatives and the Liberals. Don't get me wrong. The Conservatives would like more people to switch from Liberals to Conservative. But what they need to do is hold on and watch the left tear itself apart. That's the time that the Conservatives are banking on right now. And that's what needs to happen. They're waiting for the reset back to the normal party distribution to happen, as people see that Mark Carney is not doing what he said he's going to do. And as he tries to please everybody, he will please nobody. And all the environmentalists and all the activists and all those people who thought Mark Carney was coming in because he was a crazy far-left ideologue, Mark Carney tried to push back on that. And now he's losing the far left. So what happens? What happens if he chases it, folks? Well, all the people who used to vote conservative that voted liberal, they're going to say, well, you're not conservative anymore. So then he's going to lose those people over to the Conservatives. So this is where things are going to get very interesting for Mark Carney. As he sees this start to happen, is he going to chase it? If he doesn't chase it, they're going to leave. If he does chase it, if he chases those people to the left, well, then all the people that he gained from the right are going to go back to the right. This is where he's at. This is where it says about 1 in 5 2025 Liberal voters have shifted to a more left-leaning option. That's 20%, folks.
That's insane.
Here's Abacus. So Abacus, their last poll was a week or two before Angus Reid. And they have different polling models. They have different ways of doing it. They have the Liberals up at +6. This is what they see on the comparative net government approval, right? Trudeau versus Carney governments. This is important. It may surprise a lot of people to actually know that Justin Trudeau actually had a far more stable first year in office than Mark Carney has in terms of net approval. Mark Carney is the solid line. Higher is better. And this is what Tanya and I were talking about when we said that people aren't going to give Mark Carney the same amount of time as they gave Justin Trudeau.
No, they're not going to give him that latitude at all.
Now, you may say, well, but right now Mark Carney is higher than Justin Trudeau is at month 16. Yes, he is. But his overall, and that's more important than this, his overall has actually been far more hectic than Justin Trudeau, and he's on a steady decline at the moment. This is fascinating, but also infuriating, folks. So what you see here is the top issues that they asked Canadians on, and which party is best to actually tackle each issue. And you'll see on the right where it says advantage, it shows the party. The infuriating thing about this vote is everything related to the economy is in the Conservative Party of Canada's favor. Everything. Everything for feelings. But also, ironically, the threat posed by China and Russia, that goes to the Liberal Party.
What?
Yeah. But then, here's the most infuriating part. Donald Trump and his administration, 63% Liberal Party of Canada. Tariffs and international trade is literally the economy. So what these people responded to is, oh, everything to do with Canada's economy. Yeah, let the Conservatives handle that, but I trust Mark Carney to handle Donald Trump.
Well, and that's so bizarre because people voted for Carney because he's some hotshot economist, which we've since found out that doesn't appear to be accurate.
Here's Abacus's breakdown. 18 to 29. It has the youngsters, the kids.
We're old.
We're old. At roughly 50-50. And it actually shows that the Liberals are still using the 16 over as a strength. What is going on here? Because they both actually have single-digit leads when it comes to Angus Reid and Abacus, +4 for Angus Reid and +6 for Abacus. Well, you have to look at what is going on in the life cycle of a voter. So this is typically how swing voters operate. So you make your choice. You're an enthusiastic supporter. You voted Liberal in the last election. You're not a Liberal card-carrying member, but you bought into Mark Carney. Then you become a disappointed supporter of the same party.
Well, I know he's not doing a great job right now, but if the election were tomorrow, I would still vote for him.
Right.
Yeah.
And then more time goes on. You're no longer disappointed, but you're, okay, I don't really like these guys.
I guess I'll vote for Carney because I don't like any of the other parties.
Right. And then you move into undecided and be like, okay, so clearly I can't vote Liberal. I don't know who I'm going to vote for anymore. And this is where a lot of people say I'm politically homeless. I don't know what to do. And then they finally graduate to supporter of another party. So when you see these personal numbers shift in these demographics, like for the youth or for the 65 and up, and you see these dramatic changes, but you don't see these dramatic changes in the polls, that's a good thing. That means that these people are actually thinking about who they actually would support. And what this means is they're actually going through this life cycle so that as they are moving to the right, ironically, of being an enthusiastic liberal supporter, and they're moving along in that chain, it is far less likely that they're going to be moving back. And those numbers are saying, are you disappointed with Mark Carney? Yeah, I'm really disappointed. Would you still vote for liberal? Yeah, I guess. But they're not happy to do it. And sooner or later, that swing voter, they're not even going to do it anymore. That's how you get a swing voter to move from one party to the other. Now think of what we've been talking about. So you have a swing voter that is moving from an enthusiastic supporter to a disappointed supporter to a reluctant supporter. And then you have a bunch of people coming at them telling them they're an idiot for how they voted.
Don't do that.
That just gave them validation that I should continue to support the party that I voted for last time instead of. So I get it. You know what? Mark Carney duped you. You know what? It sucks. It sucks. But we have another shot. We have another shot when the next election comes around. And that's the great thing about voting is you can change your vote in the next election. And
that's a lot more positive, and the other person will receive it a lot better than just if they were told that they're an idiot, right?
Right. Now, there's going to be the permanent enthusiastic supporters on the Liberals, just as there's permanent enthusiastic supporters on the Conservative side. But it's the swing voters that we are looking at. And it's the swing voters that are starting to shift.
Yep.
It's the swing voters that are in the boomer category that are starting to realize that Mark Carney is not what he was advertised to be. And the youth are starting to realize, the ones that did vote Liberal, they're starting to see that it's not what they was advertised to be. So. Well,
and when you have people that are either at that reluctant supporter or that step number 4 was unknown, or what did you call it?
Undecided.
Undecided, thank you. So when you have people at those two stages, you can kind of gently bring them towards your beliefs, right? You can say, well, my EDA is having a barbecue this weekend, you know, no pressure to talk politics or anything, but why don't you come out, meet some people? When your MP, if they're conservative, is having an event, hey, so-and-so MP is going to have an event, why don't you come out? Like there's a Stop the Crime event that I saw that's coming, I want to say Cambridge, but I can't remember. Somewhere in the GTA. Just like, hey, you know what? You're really concerned about crime in your neighborhood. Why don't you come with me to this? Stuff like that.
So the point is, folks, is that people have been asking us, when are Canadians starting to wake up? It's starting to happen. It happens slowly, but it's starting to happen. We have data and we have trends now that is starting to actually show what's going on. And people are saying, well, all's going to be fine for the Liberals when Mark Carney gets a deal. You know what? If Mark Carney gets a deal and all the tariffs actually go away, I will applaud him for that, depending on what he had to give up for it. You know, all of a sudden the Northwest Territories is not part of the United States. But
I mean, didn't he give up enough already?
Well, yeah. But, let's say that happens, which it won't, but let's say that happens. That's a net good thing for all of these businesses that are in Windsor and of the same type in Quebec and all out in Western Canada and the manufacturing sector. That's a net good thing. If it is genuinely, actually, he does something, I will applaud it. I'm not optimistic it's going to happen because look at his track record. He hasn't done anything. And he's been giving up things without getting anything in return. Yeah. Like he's trying to say, well, we gave this up and then we got the bridge open. Come on. Give me a break. My cowboy hat was on too tight. Oh. Are you sure it was your cowboy hat? And yeah, anyway. Parliamentary language, right. But this is what we have. And so as we see things unfold, things are going to get more and more difficult for Mark Carney because these environmentalists are waiting for the environment to be saved by the Liberal Party, and it's not happening. And then you have the more conservative swing voters that are saying, where's my pipeline? And what happens if that doesn't happen? So Mark Carney, it's going to be inevitable that you're going to lose one and not pick up the other. If this pipeline actually gets approved, all that progressive vote is going to be ticked permanently at Mark Carney.
Yeah, 100%.
And that will be the rebirth of the NDP.
Yeah. And if it doesn't, then all these people are going, well, Mark Carney's really conservative. That'll prove them wrong.
Well, but this is going to be the funny thing, because it may actually be a conservative idea that actually takes down liberal Mark Carney.